My husband uninvited me from Thanksgiving by text, so I accepted a job across the country, and I had been married for 6 years. 6 years of cooking, planning, showing up, for every holiday, every family dinner, every moment that mattered. I never missed one. Not one. But on a Wednesday afternoon in November, while I was standing in a grocery store with sweet potatoes in my hands, my phone buzzed. A text. From my own husband. Not a call. Not a conversation. A text. For lines that ended with, "It's better if you don't come this year." I stood in that aisle for a long time. People walked past me. A child laughed somewhere nearby. And I just stood there, holding sweet potatoes I would never cook, reading 4 lines that changed everything. I didn't cry. I didn't call him. I put the sweet potatoes back on the shelf, and I made a completely different plan. What happened next, even I didn't see coming. His name was Daniel. We met in our 2nd year of college, fell in love fast, married young, and built what I genuinely believed was a good life together in Austin, Texas. He was charming and warm, the kind of man who could walk into any room and immediately make everyone smile. I was different, quieter, more steady, the kind of woman who worked behind the scenes. I remembered every birthday, handled every detail, kept our home running smoothly without ever asking for applause. That was simply who I was. And for 6 years, I believed that was enough. Thanksgiving was our biggest family holiday. Every year we drove to Nashville, to his parents' house, where his mother Claire set the table with her best china and his sister Rachel baked her famous apple pie. My contribution was the sweet potato casserole, a recipe I had perfected over 3 years, adjusted based on Claire's feedback, refined until it was exactly right. It sounds small. But it was my place in that family. My quiet, earned, consistent place. That Wednesday I had taken a half day from work specifically to shop and prepare. I had a handwritten list. I had already planned my cooking schedule. I was mentally sliding the casserole dish into the oven when I reached for my phone out of habit in the middle of the produce aisle. I expected a text about arrival time. Maybe Claire asking me to bring extra butter. Instead I read, "Hey. Mom and Rachel think it might be less stressful this year if it's just close family. No offense. Hope you have a good Thanksgiving." I read it once. Then again. Then a 3rd time. Standing completely still while people moved around me with their carts, their lists, their ordinary Wednesday afternoons. The words stayed exactly the same every time I read them. Close family. 6 years. And I was not close family. No phone call. No real explanation. Not even a complete apology, just no offense, dropped into a text like a cushion too small to soften anything. I put the sweet potatoes back on the shelf very carefully, the way you put something down when your hands are shaking but you refuse to let them show it. I drove home in silence. I sat down on the kitchen floor, not dramatically, my legs simply needed a moment, and I looked at my handwritten grocery list sitting on the counter. Sweet potatoes. Brown sugar. Pecans. Butter. A list written with care for people who had just decided I wasn't family enough to call. I did not call Daniel. I picked up my phone twice and put it back down both times. I knew that if I called him in that exact moment, I would say everything at once, and I didn't want that. I wanted to be calm. I wanted to be deliberate. I wanted whatever I did next to be a choice I made clearly, not a reaction I couldn't take back. So I opened my laptop instead. 3 weeks earlier my colleague Nadia had forwarded me a job listing, Senior Project Manager, Seattle, 40% salary increase, full relocation package included. I had looked at it for less than a minute, thought Daniel would never leave Austin, and closed the tab without a second thought. I found it again now. And this time I read every single word. The position was still open. The deadline was Friday. I looked at the screen for a long moment, and something shifted quietly inside my chest, not anger, not sadness. Something that felt, unexpectedly, like the first clean breath of air after a very long time in a closed room. I updated my resume that night. Alone. In the house I had kept and cleaned and filled with 6 years of quiet, steady, completely uncelebrated love. Daniel texted again at 9, "Hope you have a nice holiday." I didn't reply. I had just hit submit. The response came faster than I expected. Friday morning, 2 days after I submitted my application, my phone rang with a Seattle area code. I almost didn't answer. I was sitting at my desk in Austin pretending to work, pretending everything was normal, pretending I hadn't spent Thanksgiving alone eating toast and watching someone else's family movie on television. I answered on the third ring. It was the hiring manager. Her name was Patricia. She was direct, warm, and within 4 minutes she told me my profile was exactly what they needed. Could I do a video interview Monday? I said yes before I finished thinking about it. I didn't tell Daniel. He had come home from Nashville on Sunday evening, relaxed and full, carrying leftover pie his mother had packed for him. He kissed my cheek, put the pie in the refrigerator, and asked if I had done anything fun over the holiday. I looked at him for a long moment. Fun. I said I had rested. He nodded and turned on the television. That was the entire conversation. Monday's interview lasted 50 minutes. By Wednesday Patricia called again, they wanted to move forward. By the following Monday I had an offer letter open on my screen with a number that made me sit very still for several seconds. Relocation bonus. Full benefits. A start date 6 weeks away. Seattle, Washington. 2,000 miles from Austin. I printed the offer letter. I made 2 cups of coffee. I waited for Daniel to sit down at the kitchen table and then I placed the paper in front of him the same way I had once imagined placing every unanswered feeling, quietly, clearly, without drama. He read it slowly. I watched his face move through confusion, then surprise, then something that finally looked like the seriousness the moment deserved. "Seattle," he said. "Yes." "When did you even apply for this?" "The Wednesday before Thanksgiving," I said. "While you were in Nashville with your close family." He had no answer for that. The words landed exactly where I intended, not as a weapon, but as a fact. Clean and precise. "Sarah," he started. "I'm not angry, Daniel," I said, and I meant it completely. "But I need you to understand something. I spent 6 years being the woman who showed up. Every holiday. Every dinner. Every small moment that required someone steady in the background. And when your family decided I wasn't necessary, you told me by text. You didn't defend me. You didn't call. You just forwarded their decision like it was a calendar update." He looked at the table. "This job is not about punishing you," I continued. "It's about something I should have paid attention to long before that Wednesday. I had stopped making plans for myself. I had made you, and your family, and this house my entire plan. And that is not your fault. That is something I did to myself." He looked up. His eyes were tired and honest in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. "I handled it wrong," he said quietly. "I should have called you. I should have stood up for you." "Yes," I said simply. "You should have." We talked for a long time that night. Not everything was resolved. Some things between two people never resolve cleanly in a single conversation. But something true passed between us, finally, after months of comfortable silence that had slowly become distance neither of us had named. I took the job. I moved to Seattle on a gray January morning with 2 suitcases and a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Daniel and I are still figuring out what we are to each other. That story is still being written. But I learned something that Thanksgiving that I will never unlearn: a woman who disappears into her love, who makes herself small and background and always available, does not earn a place at the table. She simply becomes invisible. Your life cannot be built entirely around someone else's comfort. You must remain, always, the main character of your own story. The moment you forget that, the world will remind you. And the reminder will not arrive gently.